Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. I want to thank everybody for your patience. I just had an operation recently, and it's got me like a snail, and so it's kind of been a slow healing process. But when things get better, I'll get back to creating more videos. But I was trying to get this out so you guys will remember me. So let's see what's going on with Princess Alexandra today. It's been a while since we've popped in on her, so I want to know too. So it was the prince's 50th birthday in November, and the princess must not have quite forgiven her husband because she decided to go to her sister's to celebrate her sister's silver wedding anniversary. The prince had the absence of his wife, and then there was the damaged condition of his home. On the 31st of October, a fire destroyed the top floor of Sandringham and badly damaged the dining room and the precious Goya tapestries. On the 12th of November, another disaster occurred. Prince George fell ill with typhoid fever. The Princess of Wales sped home immediately upon hearing the news. It was implied that if her son had not become ill, she would have stayed with her sister a lot longer. This brought the prince and the princess together over their anxiety about their son, and they forgot their differences. The princess was ready once again to stand by her husband in all his troubles, even though he brought them on himself. Frances Knowles wrote that she warmly supports in everything connected with this unfortunate affair and is anxious to do all in her power to assist him. A settlement of this unfortunate affair seemed as far off as ever. In fact, it wasn't until March 1892 that the letter that had been the cause of so much trouble was returned to Lady Brooke. Surprisingly, Prince Eddy and his affairs proved a bright spot on a dark outlook. The Queen was enthusiastic about the proposed marriage of Prince Eddy and Princess May. The trouble was in the couple themselves. A month or so earlier, Ponsonby had written about Prince Eddy. "I'm told he don't care about the Princess May of Teck, and she appears to be too proud to take the trouble of running after him, to which I rather admire her." Ponsonby was proved wrong in his judgment. Prince Eddy was willing and anxious to propose and marry Princess May. So anxious, in fact, that meeting her at a house party at Luton Hoo, he proposed, and he was accepted a full month earlier than the date on which his parents had arranged for his engagement to have taken place. And Princess Alexandra wrote to Queen Victoria, "Dearest Mamma, this time I do hope that dear Eddy has found the right bride. Her letter is full of praise for Princess May. She will be one of us at once, and the fact that her being English will make all the difference and carry the whole nation with them. But in her happiness," she said, "she still cannot forget the sad tragedy and blighted life of that sweet, dear Helene." The wedding day was set for the 27th of February, 1892, on January Prince Eddy's 28th birthday. 3 days later, although Prince Eddy wasn't feeling well, he insisted on going on a shoot. As he walked away from the house, he glanced back to see his mother at the window, and he waved his hat in greeting. For many years, the princess kept that hat hanging in her bedroom. He came back early looking very pale and complained of a bad headache, and the next day collapsed with influenza. On his birthday, he came downstairs to receive his presents, but felt so ill he had to go back to bed. The princess wrote to her parents, "I still see him all the time before my eyes." As he went up the stairs for the last time in his life, and he turned his head to give me his friendly nod, which I must do without forever now. The next day, the doctor pronounced him to be seriously ill with inflammation of the lungs and summoned a specialist and 2 nurses. For the next 2 days, Sunday and Monday, Princess May was allowed to pay him frequent visits. But on Tuesday, he was so much worse, the doctors, urging the need for a perfect quiet, forbade any visitors except his parents. Ever since the beginning of his illness, he had shown himself to be gentle and obedient toward his mother, who had almost been constantly by his side. Everything I asked him to do he did, and took everything from my hands. Now he became delirious and was raving incessantly. Princess Alexandra found it painful. Nothing is so terrible as to hear a person that you love raving in that way. This took her back to the time her husband had been delirious during his attack of typhoid fever, and she hoped that since his father had recovered, he would too. But it was not to be. At 8 o'clock on the morning of the 13th of January, after an all-night vigil in the sick room, The princess woke her husband and said she was despaired of her son's life. Another specialist arrived, and they were buoyed by his opinion. So the Prince of Wales continued to hope, although everyone else knew that all hope had vanished. He wandered restlessly in and out of his son's room, where the princess sat by the bedside, refusing to move until well after midnight, when the doctors persuaded her to take a little rest. She had hardly lain down on the sofa when they called her back in the room. Prince Eddy was dying. It was as if I myself might die at this moment, and yet I had to muster my tears and my deep, deep despair and be calm. Although the tears were running down, I spoke to him, but, oh, he no longer heard me, and yet he was still talking, but with that great difficulty and effort, with that terrible rattle in his throat. The Prince of Wales joined her, followed by his brother and sisters and Princess May. The tiny room was now almost suffocating. For hours they waited, watching for the painful death agony, while the nurse put ice to his head and his mother wiped the sweat from his face. All we could hear were the sobs of terrible agony in his throat and chest and our own sobs. 3 times the watchers were sent out of the room, and then he would rally, but each time it was only for a few minutes. Even now the princess could not believe that God would allow her son to be taken from her. Her simple faith was not shaken, but it's hard, so hard, and our Lord's ways are past understanding. Suddenly Prince Eddy exclaimed, "Something too awful has happened. My darling brother George is dead." His mother wondered if he knew it was himself that was dying. Princess Alexandra said his illness had come on so suddenly. To my great sorrow, I never managed to speak of him of death. But she was comforted by their own parson from the Sandringham church, who kept repeating the prayers for the dying. The watchers by his bedside had been there more than 7 hours when Prince Eddy asked, "Who is that?" and murmuring the question over and over again, sank into the last of the quiet of death. Sank at last into the quiet of death. So I will end the video here. This is a sad episode because Princess Alexandra and the whole family loved Prince Eddy, no matter what his flaws were. And the family was always very close, so it must have been a shock to lose Prince Eddy at his young age. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't subscribed, if you could do it, it would help the channel to grow, as well as giving a thumbs up. It's all a great help. And if you haven't clicked on the notification bell, if you could do that, it lets you know when a video is posted. More importantly, I want to wish everyone a good day, and tune in again soon for another episode of Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Thank you.